Alright, so we got the moon subconsciously swimming in Gemini at the moment. So we all going to be basically reacting and responding towards mutable air, adapting to ideas, feeling the need to communicate or communicate our feelings and emotions and express this, and of course, put this on stage. So pretty much when you get on stage, you're going to basically be exploring and of course pouring out your heart about specific topics or ideas, and you're going to be pretty much in the process of beautiful air, picking up ideas or swindling. And of course, we all got this in our charts when it comes to the moon being in Gemini. And when the moon is subconsciously swimming in Gemini, you need to basically be subconsciously reacting and responding towards a form of idea, expressing these ideas, sharing these ideas, and putting these ideas as attacks for me. So what the universe needs you to do is basically communicate. Sometimes everybody may not want to be in the need to communicate, but communication is key. So if you ain't communicating, and of course you ain't actually flowing or pushing off anything that's gonna kind of like have a standing ground to step on. It's one thing to also learn how to communicate with yourself. But once you accomplish and of course got to that process, you got to communicate with others. For me, because it's teamwork made the dream work. And of course, if you ain't got a team behind your motherfucking goals or whatever you got going on when it comes to this world, your dreams won't work. It don't have too much power. It don't have too much energy. It don't have too much spark. Your shit gonna be dry, like the dry lands. And when shit get dry, you always gonna have some form of frustration and conflict going on. Because when we all know when we try to go inside and that thing is dry, of course we're gonna be in the situations of having to do extra, do a little bit more just to get it moist, just to get it water, just to get it soured up. So you want to basically put yourself into a process of basically making sure that you have the true intentions to make sure that thing is flowing like a water current. You want to make sure that water current is strong. You want to make sure pressure is busting pipes. You want to make sure that you are applying pressure. So this way, when you apply enough pressure, the pressure will rise. Everything will start exploding. And when things start exploding, that goes to show you done watered your garden. So every part of your garden is wet, moist, and of course the fruits and the vegetables is gonna start growing. The seeds you planted is gonna start flowing and growing. So this take you back to the spectrum when we just had the moon being in Taurus. When the moon is in Taurus, you can go to extreme energies of reacting and responding towards being clingy, comfortable, safety, secure, and of course, overindulging towards the desires and pleasures that you kind of like do on a day-to-day basis. But you gotta also understand and understand. You gotta also have a true intention towards why you have a desire. I mean, because you don't want your desire to overtake you. Because when you get overtaken by a desire, then goddamn, your ass gonna end up underneath the tire, which means you're gonna get rolled over. Feel me? Because that desire has took you over, and of course that desire has made sure your ass is not sitting in no seats, whether it's the front seats or the back seats. It put you up underneath the car, the tire, so you pretty much carrying all the weight. So you don't want to be a tire. Now with this moon in Gemini, you need to go. You're gonna be pretty much in the process of reacting and responding towards the waning process. So the seeds you was planting when the moon was waxing, you're gonna basically be getting these backs in return. Now, depending on the seeds you planted, your garden is gonna be the fruit, or it's gonna basically be the snake. Feel me? You want to make sure that your garden is clean. You want to make sure that your garden is open towards receiving new, aka new things and new circumstances that you can kind of like play out and utilize these terms of perspectives when it comes to you pushing off this perspective on how you want to characterize and of course communicate about the things and the people and the personas within your environments. So it's pretty much like up to you in this process when it comes to this circumstance situation of who you're dealing with and of course who you are allowing within your environment or your surroundings or your internal space. Because it's one thing to have the garden out there and open, but of course you can't open your doors and your garden towards everybody. Because of course you can't have certain conversations with certain individuals because everybody may not basically be in the right circumstance or the right hemisphere where they can kind of like connect with you, or of course have a internship, which means you both have an internship, but of course that internship is not connecting, or of course sailing in the right directions and sailing in the wrong direction. So you want to basically create a whirlwind, and of course create a catastrophic event of allowing certain individuals within your environment when it comes to communication. But communication is key during this time. So if you don't put in no effort of communicating and expressing what you got going on, and of course you're going to be in the process of not having nothing to love or nurture and care for when the moon is Cancer. Feel me? And we're going to basically begin situated because the moon is actually decreasing on this at this perspective. So when something is decreasing, it's getting smaller. Feel me? It was big, but now it's decreasing because it's kind of like raining down everything that was pretty much pushed off when the new moon was in its waxing phases. So of course it's up to you to pretty much, encapsulate these energies and of course use these energies and these transits towards from getting you from point A to point B. You never want to place yourself into a circumstance situation of passing up on these opportunities. So we got a sextile within the sky. So the sun is sextile and the moon at the moment. So you want to get deep. You want to get, controlling in these areas. Of course, when it comes to the moon, you want to harness these energies. I mean, these energies become their fruit, become physical. So you got to utilize these energies the best way you do it. And everything starts with you. It's all about you at the end of the day. Feel me? You gotta put yourself first before you put anything on anyone else first. Feel me? You gotta make sure you're right first. Because if you're right, then of course nothing can go wrong when you're right. Feel me? Once you get right, you can never get left. Feel me? It's all about you. But when this process play out in this perspective, we're gonna have 2 days for this moon being in Gemini right now. So of course it's up to you to go ahead and of course start reacting and responding towards communication, sharing ideas, or having a group that you can connect with. And of course, teamwork, dream work, and of course like now, the area and location that you have the moon in Gemini, the house that you have it in, the moon needs some form of nurturing, care, and of course, a form of connection at this point. So, of course, this is your private stance. This is privately what you pretty much need to, charging up and filling up when it comes to the cup. You want to make sure you're at least filling this up just a little bit, not too much. For me, just want to make sure that you are in the process of, making sure that you're riding the currents and of course practicing as above and as below. And of course, when you're in the process of this circumstance situation, you need to go ahead and of course utilize a little bit of logic, utilize a little intellect, and things that are bad and things that have perspective. And you need to go ahead and of course get off your 1 2. Now if you got this in your first house, the moon and Gemini in your first house, you need you to pretty much fill up the cup when it comes to your personality, your personal life, what you personally got going on. Now the personal people, places, and things that's in your life need to come across with a new way of communicating with these individuals, or just come up with a new way of reacting and responding and expressing your personality. And of course, it's all about how you express your personality. Your personality need to be new during the time. You need to come up with some whole new shit. People, places, and things need to be looking at you in a new perspective or a new way, a new approach. That's how you need to come at the shit. Now, if you got to see a second house, you need to put time and patience and start formulating some form of communication when it comes to the things you value and the people you value. Feel me? Spend time into that shit. Feel me? Because this is the second house, so that you want to be fixated. You want to spend time in that motherfucker. You want to get stubborn in that motherfucker. So get stubborn in that area and location and express that. If you got to see your third house, it's comfortable here. It's home here. So you ain't gotta really do much. But of course, in this house right here, you want to make sure that you're communicating and of course expressing yourself within your environment when it comes to the people, places, and things in your environment, your friends, your siblings, your neighbors, and shit like that. You want to communicate, have some form of communication with them. You never know who's gonna open doors for you in the long run. So make sure you're open to that. You got this in your fourth house. You want to be the one that's creating the vibe. You want to make sure that you're in charge when it comes to communicating about home, family, privacy, or communicating about creating a home and family with someone or something that you have a comfortable, safe, and secure manner with, or start expressing this with your home and family. Now, if you got this in your fifth house, this is your creative endeavor. So you want to pretty much stay fixated when it comes to expressing yourself and your emotional stance on things. This is kind of like what's going on in the sky at the moment with the Sun of Leo and of course the Moon of Gemini. You want to pretty much express and of course add some light and of course put some beauty, some electrify, and you want to electrify and of course spark shit up when it comes to this house right here. Because in this house, this is the fifth house, so it gotta look creative, it gotta look fun. I mean, you want to make sure that your words have funness, have enjoyment, have some satisfaction in it. You want to pretty much speak it with your chest. You want to express it. You want to pretty much put it off out there. You want to make sure it's getting personal. You want to get real serious. You want to get real expressive, real explosive when it comes to your way of expressing yourself within your fifth house. This is how it's gonna. This is how that light on. You're gonna let that light shine. Yeah, if you got Virgo, I mean, if you got Gemini in the sixth house, this is going to be a little conflict here, a learning experience. But of course, a learning experience is not going to be too complicated because you're a Capricorn ascendant. So that means you need to put yourself into a circumstance situation of getting more organized when it comes to your ways of communicating and sharing ideas when it comes to your work, your health, your routine. You want to make sure these things start getting equipped and organized in this house right here. You want to focus your viewpoints and, of course, your direction in this area and location. Sixth house qualities, how you can be of service, how you can get your shit together, and of course how you can get your shit constructed, and of course it's gonna pretty much play out in your favors, even though it's gonna be in conjunction. But of course, this is a learning process, so you need to learn to get organized and construct your shit when it comes to your sixth house. Now, if you got this in your seventh house, relationships, communication, all about relationships. Communication is key when it comes to your relationships. That means you kind of like you're gonna be the opposer. you're either gonna go to some oppositions when it comes to your relationships and your way you relate, or you'll be pretty much placing off these energies. But of course, this house right here, you need to come of course with communicating with your partnerships and shit like that. Communication with them. I mean, sharing ideas with them. Well, balanced when it comes to your communication and your ideas. Got this in your eighth house. You need to your way of communicating and your way of reacting and responding need to be private. You need to kind of like conceal yourself and go with inside yourself, and of course share from it. You need to go through a transformation. Stay down until you come up when it comes to your ways of reacting and responding towards communicating on a deeper level. I mean, you're gonna be pretty much expressing yourself deeply during the song. Try not to express too much. I mean, certain words shouldn't be expressed during the song. If you got to see an eighth house, eighth house is private. Feel me? Your private area. You want to make sure your private area and your way of communication and lingo is submerged when it comes to that area. Unless you have someone that you have a deep connection with that can relate. Okay, don't be expressing too much of that shit on the surface. Now, if you got to see your ninth house, you need to be looking at the bigger picture when it comes to your communication. You are Libra ascendant, so you're gonna be the opposer. I mean, you're gonna be the opposition. You're gonna be the ops in this house right here. For me, when it comes to looking at the bigger picture, when it comes to communicating about your philosophies, um, philanthropic, your religions and shit like that. For me, you're gonna be the opposer when it comes to those perspectives. Now, if you got to see your 10th house, you need to be communicating and sharing, coming up with a new way of communicating and sharing ideas about your status, your career, your goals, or your business, or individuals that kind of like think alike when it comes to your business, your career, and of course your goals and your responsibilities and duties and obligations. Now, if you got to see your 11th house, you need to be sharing ideas when it comes to the collective consciousness, aka communicating and sharing ideas when it comes to groups, um, gangs or individuals that you kind of like, build an establishment with. And if this is in your 12th house, you need to learn how to kind of like, communicate within yourself, aka go within inside yourself, submerge yourself, communicate with your subconscious, and of course, communicate with your inner world. That's your importance right there. And your dreams and your fantasies, you need to be reacting and communicating about that.